This is a passenger jet, and this is the passenger jet engine, and this will probably you trying to step in the airplane to go on for a holiday of your life if not for COVID-19. And this is an air molecule. Today we will enter the story of this air molecule. What air molecule, you might ask? So according to this guy from this country, and then 100 years later, this guy from this country, in a cube of air with a dimension of 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter, we usually have this many air molecules here near where we live. 78% of these are nitrogen, 21% are oxygen, and today we will follow one of those, this one. Let's give it a name, let's say Jason. And Jason is an oxygen molecule. We don't really care about Jason's previous life as a molecule. All we need to know is Jason at the moment and the Jason that will propel the plane later on. Welcome to DG Stories. The story begins and the engine's fan spins. This spin creates a pressure gradient, and Jason, the air molecule, the oxygen, is pressured to move towards the engine. So for any air molecule in the atmosphere, its tendency is always to move towards wherever the lower pressure is. Just imagine we have two metros. One is really crowded and one is fairly quiet. And standing in a station, you have the choice to go to either, and all air molecules, including our friend Jason, will lean towards a quiet one. And that's what Jason goes with. So Jason follows where the lowest pressure is and gets to the center of the fan. It's almost vacuum, almost no air molecules are there. There's no one like Jason, and Jason's happy because it's low pressure and there's no friends there. Jason wants to stay alone. But there is no pressure, or there is a vacuum formed for a reason. This is because at the center of the fan, all air molecules have been hit by the fan and exit with a higher velocity into another fan. And Jason, being the same with all his friends that came before him, is unsurprisingly hit by the fan. Ouch, Jason says, and runs away from the fan fast. And then Jason gets hit by another fan. Double ouch, he said, and then runs away from the second fan at an even higher velocity, all the way until it gets hit typically 8 times for a normal engine in the Airbus 340. Now Jason, after all the fans hitting him, is under about 40 atmospheric pressure. If the crowded metro we showed earlier was 1 atmospheric pressure, now Jason is in the metro 40 times as crowded as it was. And in front of Jason is the combustion chamber. This combustion chamber is about 2000 degrees Celsius. This chamber is really hot and it's also full of very hot molecules from the fuel tank. When you, Jason, the oxygen air molecule, enters this chamber, you see a really hot carbon molecule ready for some high quality mixing, and that carbon we can call her Jenny. After some quality time together between, say, Jenny and Jason, well, they become one, and that's how you get carbon dioxide, and they now are one and they move as one. So when they were becoming one a moment ago, they were hot, burning hot and releasing a lot of heat. This amount of heat, and this is a lot, enough to power your iPhone to this percent. Well, still a lot considering that they're just molecules, and at this point, even now Jason is combined with Jenny. He is still running away from those fans that hit him previously, but this time as Jason runs away, Jason has his revenge. He hits some fans on his way out, but only this time there's less fans, and the fans spin as a result of Jason hitting the fans, and then connected to these fans is a rigid rod. To the other side of the rod is connected to the other fans that hit Jason just a moment ago. The power generated by Jason hitting these fans on his way out is now transferred through that rigid rod to the fans that hit him on his way in. The rows of fans he hit on the way in is called the compressor of the engine, and the ones on the way out is the turbine. The power from the turbine to the compressor is being used to hit other molecules on the way in. So Jason's revenge eventually becomes the power that hits some of his other mates that are still on the way in. Those who also wanted this quiet metro over the busy one. So now we are at the end of the journey, and now we take Jason before he met the fans and being hit by them. He had a velocity at about 0. After all the hitting, burning, mixing and other good stuff, now he has a velocity at about 2100 kilometers per hour. By calculating the momentum before the process and after the process, we can calculate the difference. Momentum is mass times velocity, and velocity has changed, and so has mass. Because Jason and Jenny combined, now we need to add Jenny's mass to this calculation. Again, there are a lot of zeros involved in this calculation, and I will not show it this time. But the difference in momentum is what propels the plane forwards, according to this guy's third law, which essentially says when you make something go a certain direction, that something makes you go the opposite direction. And the more air you can get through the process, the more power you eventually get out of it. And just like when you're doing kayaking, the more water molecules you manage to make them go in the opposite direction to where you are headed, the faster you become. And a typical engine in a plane that we normal people take can suck about 1 ton of air through the engine for every second it runs at high speed. And eventually, with enough Jasons and Jennys, the plane moves, and that is how you get to where you want.